to another episode of Hit the Reset, where we celebrate bold new beginnings, especially those that happen after the so-called half-life mark of life. My guest today is someone who's rewritten her own script multiple times, from studying English literature to decoding monetary policies at the Reserve Bank of India, leading global banks, steering Paytm payment bank, and now an entrepreneur. That's not all. She's also a writer, a storyteller, and a firm believer that reinvention does not come with an expiry date. Please join me in welcoming Shinjini Kumar, a woman who proves that experience is the new currency of innovation. Good morning, Shinjini, and thank you for taking time to do the podcast.
Good morning. Thank you, Malu, for having me here.
Shinjini, you've had a very fantastic career. Let's start at the heart of it. As I said in the introduction, you've gone from English literature to central banking to entrepreneurship. That's quite a leap across world. So was there a single reset moment that made you say, all right, time to flip the page?
Yeah, I'm sure there was. And I think it was leaving the RBI because it was exactly halfway mark in my career. So, I've worked for 34 years or so, and RBI is 17 of that. So when I was leaving RBI, it was definitely a very considered decision because I had invested a lot in that career. Because when I joined RBI, it was still a transition because I had studied English literature and journalism. And what I was going to do in RBI was very different from what I had been trained for. But that was not so hard because, you are young and you're excited about something. You've qualified an exam that very few people do. And, I was already doing media, and I only went to one person to ask for advice. It wasn't my parents, it was my editor. And I asked him, what should I do? Because now I have this appointment letter from RBI. And he said, you should go because you'll learn something new. You're very young. And if you don't like it, you can come back. So that gave me a lot of confidence to just go out and try something new. But once I got to RBI, of course, I stayed for 17 years and I got very invested in that career. There came a point where I was getting close to 40 and I was in Bombay and I was feeling very restless about, moving faster because there seemed to be a finite amount of time I had in life. And I wanted to collect much more experience of life, not just of my career. And that seemed like it wasn't really happening. And so I said, okay, I'm ready to go try new things. I wasn't even very sure what I was heading for. It turned out to be a good story in retrospect. But at that point of time, the thing playing on my mind was that I wanted to go out in the world and do different things. So, yeah. So that was definitely a very big reset moment for me. So I thought changing careers was a good way of looking at it, not just changing jobs. So that became a bit of a learned process. And I guess it still is because as I was telling you that, I've just written a book and it's very scary to think that people will actually read it and obviously find faults with it. But you get used to that discomfort of trying new things because every time I have gone and tried a new thing, it's kind of like going 10 years back in time from a learning and attitude and how you will be treated by others perspective. And that kind of becomes... you learn to do it. It's not something which is organic. It's not something that you come with, but I guess in my life, at least I've been able to learn that.
You should be the last person to be worried about what people say after all the pivots that you've done in life. And also, it goes back to the fact that you kept your passion intact of writing and it comes back in another form later in life. Right? So, you did your banking and then you're right now in a sector where we often hear that age is a disadvantage, right? You talk about tech in general or fintech in particular, and you seem to have flipped that narrative, right? Was it the experience or was it a little bit of the gray hair that has been your secret superpower? Because we're talking a lot about age and ageism in this podcast, so I thought I will start off with that.
I think you're being very nice. I won't say that I have been able to flip the narrative at all. I will, in fact, say that it has been very humbling for me to try twice. Once leaving PwC and joining Paytm Payments Bank as its first CEO, and the second time building my own startup as a co-founder with much younger founders. In both situations, I will say that age by itself is definitely not an advantage. Experience by itself is also not an advantage. What is an advantage, if you can actually swing it, is an attitude to let go of your learning and your sort of stature, and be willing to sort of learn. And for me, it was very hard. I think Paytm was extremely hard for me personally. By the time I was doing Salt, it was much not that hard, because I had already sort of understood that this is what it will take. So that part was not hard. But this time around, what was really hard was again and what really humbled me was again dealing with investors, and they have a different type of smartness and a different type of expectation. And for me to learn about that and to understand that and to come up to that level, that was the new challenge in my second stint. So I will not say that, and obviously, as you know, the startup is right now struggling. So it's not that I will say I've been successful and I've changed the narrative, but maybe someday I'm able to do it, because I've not given up on the dream of building a more equal financial services, in India. And if I am able to do it, then I guess that will be something. But at this point of time, I think the way capital gets allocated, there definitely is a reason to believe that. And for us, it was kind of a bit of a double disadvantage, right? We were women, we were building for women. So gender also plays out. Timing, the most important thing in life is always timing. You are building at a time when capital is available versus capital is scarce. So it's not all in your hands. So it makes you humble. It's not that you think that, oh, you tried this and therefore you are brave. But yeah, you tried it, therefore you are brave. You may not succeed.
Which is true. I mean, just to step into that space, and if I hear you right, it is still an issue when it comes to funding for startups from a gender perspective and an age perspective. That's what you're saying, right? I mean, it is an issue.
I mean, it's not something to be glossed over. It is a proven fact. So it's not something. I guess the age bias is a little less than the gender bias.
You also made a statement saying that you need to let go and learn new things when you pivot, right? We normally tend to hear positive stories. The success stories are what is presented in social media usually. And this concept or the idea of starting over is kind of glamorized now. So what was the messiest or the most uncomfortable part of your transition that no one tells you about? Any of your transitions, you can take any example, any incident that you would like to share.
All my transitions had moments of, but because it happened every time, I have understood how it works. So I can actually deal with it. So I got better at dealing with it. Actually, at a very senior level, when you join an organization, there is only that much of mentoring or grooming that you can expect to get, because people are busy with their own lives and they are going to invest in you to some extent, but then they are going to give up very quickly because they have other things to move on to. And so I'm very grateful to many of my senior partners because they did give me that investment. But I did come to a point where I was ready to throw in the towel and say, okay, I can't do this. Because everybody kept coming to me and saying, solve this RBI problem for me. And I was like, if I loved RBI so much, I would still be there. Why am I here and solving RBI problems? I want to do new things. And and there's always serendipity and chance in life, and I guess Rajan came up with the idea of giving new bank licenses and payments companies and all kinds of things, and therefore the market became interesting for me to go in and get some money. And once I started earning and once I started getting clients, then things fell in place. But it was not easy. What helped me was observing people. So when I was new, I used to do everything that any partner asked me to do. It could be an advisory partner calling me to go and meet his client for a pitch, or working on an RFP, or it could be an audit partner calling me for a clarification on some accounting standard, or it could be a tax partner taking me with him for some cross-border FMR type issue. I was not closed to anything. I was open to everything. So I guess that helped me also build relationships and to get to understand the organization. So there's a significant amount of investment involved. But once it started to move, it did work to that extent. And then I understood that wherever I will go, if I'm changing a career, if I'm doing something new, the onus is on me to continuously prove that I may not be doing A plus today, but I have the ability and the willingness to do that. And if you give me a little bit of support, then I will get to that point. And and if I don't, then, I'm as good as anybody else. But to start with, that indulgence was something that I began to understand. Who was that person who will give me that indulgence? Sometimes I succeeded, sometimes I didn't. But if you come in at a senior level, you have made a career change, the onus is on you to define your success parameters, understand that organization well. You won't get it from the other side, unless you also happen to be like sometimes you can be lucky. You can be hired by somebody who has a very strong conviction in you or in the institute that you came from. Like, it works very well with networks, right? You are from IIM Ahmedabad and you hire somebody from IIM Ahmedabad. You have a little bit of a investment in that person. I didn't come from any of those backgrounds. So it was a little bit of a challenge.
The reason why I'm asking about transition is that many professionals over 50 say they feel stuck. Sometimes they're comfortable, but kind of unfulfilled. And they want an anchor or a purpose in life, but don't know how to reset, right? There's a struggle out there saying, either you've quit on your own or you're unable to get another job due to age-related issues, and you're stuck because you've been in the comfort zone, and then now to start something on your own is tough. So what advice would you give them, since you've transitioned quite a bit? I'm talking about the later transitions in your life. What would you like to give them to help them take the first step forward in the second career?
So I don't know if my advice will be useful to most people, Malu, but I'll tell you what worked for me.
Based on your experience.
Yeah, based on my experience, and because I came from a very peculiar background.
Yeah.
First thing that I found liberating was to realize that you don't need as much money to live a comfortable life as you think you do. So there's a whole industry built around consumerism that continuously reinforces this idea that you actually need a lot of money to live your dream life. And I think this messaging it comes at us from so many quarters in such strong ways that by the time, and the older you get, the more you have received that messaging. And therefore, sometimes younger people are able to make more dramatic shifts and, build startups and take the risks and, make a film or do things that are more high risk than older people are, because the older you get, the more this reinforcement. And once you have a family, then the reinforcement is much worse, because now the reinforcement becomes that you have to take care of your children, and your children must go to a certain type of school, and you must have enough money to send them for a degree abroad. And all of those things begin to seem like necessities rather than things that may happen or may not happen. For me, because I came from an ordinary background, and because I lived in RBI for 17 years on a fairly good salary, but not the kind of salary that I later got used to, I I felt that that was not true. A lot of this wealth building idea as you get older becomes very entrenched. So, what I'm trying to say is that the first thing you need to understand is how much is really enough for you. If you really want, if you're really stuck, and there are two options for you. Either you are stuck and you continue to slave through because you say, okay, someday I will retire and then I'll live my life. Right now, I need to make the money. I just cannot do without it. And therefore, let me just, soldier on. And whatever is the best I can do within this, I can go and seek advice from my seniors. I can do better. I can try another department. I can try another. You can explore your options within that. But my lesson is that it's never too early to get out of a rut, because the more time you spend in a rut, the the more you're losing value, the more you're losing energy. So if you want to pull yourself out of the rut, then you need to have your house in order. You need to understand, do I have enough money to live a life, not the life that you have been told that you must live, but a life. Maybe you can't fly for a vacation every year. What is it that you will be able to do? Do you have enough money for that? And then you anchor yourself and you say, okay, I have enough to live. Now I can take a chance. That, I guess, is the first, because as much as we think that purpose or passion has to do with our hearts, the truth is that when you will want to execute on that purpose or passion, the first thing that you will have to put in order will be finances. So you will have to have some understanding of either what you have or what you can access, and some being realistic is very important. So for me, it's always been like that. So I've always told myself that, okay, what am I getting? I'm getting an opportunity to be a part of a startup, for example. When I was going to Paytm, I was a partner in PwC and I was going to Paytm. Obviously, my compensation was completely different, but I was telling myself that technology is the future. I'm never going to get the chance in this life to do something like this. So I'm going to go and do this. And if money will be, of course, I was getting ESOPs, but let's say the ESOPs don't turn out to be equivalent to what I would make as a partner here, then worst case, what will happen? Worst case, I will have a more modest life, but that's okay. I can live with that. I can live with a modest life, but I would have this opportunity. I think that honesty with yourself on all counts, and with your family, I think that is important. So money is important. The second thing is important is sometimes there is also an overselling of purpose and passion, because you can be constantly sold by the idea that I must live by my purpose and therefore but when you go there, you may find it very hard, because you are used to a certain way of doing things in your corporate life. You are used to putting a certain type of energy into your work. You're used to a certain type of colleagues. And then when you go here, then it's all very different. And then you may not like that. So I guess learning more about, even when you feel that you found your purpose, then challenging yourself more, exposing yourself to it in a slightly more limited environment, having people around you who are actually doing that is very important, and seeing them, for me, just living with my husband has been that, right? Or just seeing his friends, because I know so many people to whom it doesn't matter what they wear, how they fly, what type of hotel they live in, what type of homes they live in. Those things don't matter to them. And when you see them, when you go and live in their homes, you actually learn and you say, could I do this? And sometimes the answer will be, no, I couldn't do this. Like, there's just no way I could live like this. And then it's better for you to, know those boundaries. Sometimes we get oversold both the idea of being a consumeristic success and the idea of being a purposeful, poor. I guess both ideas you need to test yourself against and then say, can I actually make the switch? And if you feel that you can, then don't waste time.
So there's funding, there's finance, which is quite clear to understand. You spoke about purpose. It sounds simple, but to understand what your purpose is in life is very difficult. I mean, you start asking this question from a 2-year-old child till you're 60, and you still don't know what the purpose is. So do people have to wait for clarity before they pivot, or do you think clarity? What comes first, clarity or the courage to do it? Or is it just the caffeine and the chaos that pushes you forward and say, do something different? So what is
That's
it?
such a good question, Malu. And with the kind of career that you have had,
Yeah.
you would also have an answer to this.
No,
And
I
I know
don't think
the answers would be similar. I guess it's to each his own or her own. For me, it has always been do first, think later.
yeah, okay.
As long as I was sorted on not being homeless. Look, I'm not the kind of person who will be able to deal with being homeless or not knowing where my next
Yeah.
meal comes from. I know that because I have been poor. I know what it means to not have money, and therefore, and I have relatives and friends, and I come from that background where I have seen poverty very closely. So I don't see the glamour of poverty, and I will not subject myself to it willingly. So so I know that. But at the same time, I will not wait to secure myself from all sides for 100 years, uh, to before I actually can start doing things in life that I want to do. You know what I'm saying? So when my mother got sick, and I wanted to spend more time with her, and I wanted to find something to do that would make my life more flexible, I was still not, I still didn't have the kind of money that most of my colleagues would have had, because I spent first 17 years of my life in RBI and I wasn't saving. I was not a saving type. And so I had money, but I didn't have so much money that I would feel, okay, yeah, not, if anything happens, I will be fine. But what was the trade off? The trade off was that my mother would go and I wouldn't spend time with her. So I wasn't thinking. I was like, okay, I'm going to do this, and whatever will happen, will happen. So sometimes you will, so purpose in life will sometimes just come to you, because it'll be like taking care of somebody. That's purpose. Sometimes purpose will evolve from there. So once I started to spend time with her, then I got more and more grounded in my background, where I come from, a lot of very thoughtful ideas, and that led to writing, and that led to reconnecting with something that I was already probably good at or wanted to do at some time in my life. So sometimes it will be serendipity that will lead you to that place. But even serendipity will hit you if you're open to it, right? If you're open to doing different things, if your heart is open, your mind is open, your eyes are open, then serendipity will also come to you. Otherwise, it may just pass you by and you may never see your purpose in life. I mean, everybody I know who has finally been able to discover their purpose, it has not happened that you've woken overnight and found it. Then you go through this process of trying different things, muddling through, and then saying, oh, there is something that gives me more joy, and I can monetize it perhaps, and I can perhaps spend my time doing this. Obviously the outcome that you're looking for is that your time gets spent doing something that also earns you money, and that also makes you feel good about yourself. Not that doesn't make you feel like you're slaving away.
Yeah.
Everybody is looking for that, right? That's the zone where everybody wants to be. Where some people might land there serendipitously at 22 or 24, but I doubt that. I think for most people, it is a bit of a muddling through.
So it could be clarity, it could be courage, it could be caffeine or chaos. To each her own. That's what I gather from there.
Yes, courage is always the most important one.
Yeah. I'm going to pivot a bit, Shinjini. So we're going to talk about ageism and retirement. I think this is a discussion we've had in the past as well. With people living longer, birth rates falling, what do you think the corporates and government should do? To me, people above, say, 50, 55, that's an untapped gold mine of talent, of experienced seniors, right? Why are organizations not looking at this pool? A lot of companies do talk about being age agnostic, but then they ask you for a number of years of experience, they ask you for your ID. So most of the times when you apply, you get a response immediately saying that they're not going forward with it, although you've ticked all the boxes. So which means there is ageism out there. There is, they do not want to pick up people after a certain age. So why is that so? I mean, there could be possibilities of specific pockets within the organization where this experience could be used.
So I don't deny that there are spaces
Hmm.
where there would be value to experience, but I also have a very strong belief to the contrary,
Mhm.
that we live in a time of rapid technology change and also very rapid social change. We are living in, I mean, I guess every generation thinks they're living in unprecedented times,
Yeah.
because even if you go back and read like a 100-year-old book, it will still say that. But I think in our times, the premium on youth
Hmm.
is very, very high, um, partly because of technology, and that they are technology friendly, and that they are not averse to making mistakes, and that they can, break a few things and make something which is creative. All of those things, partly because of that. But also because, especially if you look at a country like India, we are a young country. And because we are a young country, the talent, the chances of finding talent in in 10 in a pool of 100 young people are quite high. So actually, every time I have sat across a young person on the other side of the table to interview, the question that I've asked myself is that if this person was to sit in my chair, what is it that this person wouldn't be able to do?
Let's
Okay.
talk globally. I mean, I'm talking about globally because the retirement age varies from country to country.
Yeah.
Same set of people. If I can work at 80 in the US, why would I have to quit at 60 in another country and sit at home? That's my question. I mean,
Quite frankly, I don't like the idea of 80-year-olds working when 26-year-olds are struggling to find a job. I frankly think that that is not fair to young people.
there are enough and more jobs for both, and with all the
If there
startups
were,
coming up,
yeah,
yeah, so with
if
so
there
many
were,
startups,
I
yeah,
wouldn't have a problem.
yeah,
But there are not. Like all the stories coming out of US also today,
yeah.
people who are graduating from even the top tier campuses with good results, they are not finding jobs. They are struggling. Sorry. And then to say that organizations can do with people that they already have, and therefore why hire? I'm not so sure that's the best idea. I guess it's horses for courses. If you are an organization, I guess, see, an organization is also a body. It
Yeah.
will do what it's like. We need nutrition, right? And if we need protein, and if we end up eating more carbs, we are damaging ourselves. So I guess organizations also have to make that balance between proteins and carbs. If they are sitting with a lot of experience, and they don't have enough challengers, it makes them sort of out of touch with the population to whom they are selling. But let's say you're a luxury company. You no, I mean, I'm getting to your point only, and I'm
Hmm.
saying, let's say you are a company that
Yeah.
is built on the idea of luxury. Now, who has money is mostly elder people. you know they have money, and you want to market to them, you want to sell to them, you want to build something for them. You think you need a certain type of understanding and experience. Maybe that's the right type of person to hire. So I'm not so sure that either saying that organizations can go both ways. Sometimes people will say, let's just get really young people, and I've seen that fail also miserably, because there's an over and I guess that's the point you are making, that there is an over premium on youth, as if just by hiring a lot of young people you will change the culture of your organization. Actually, you don't. Then you are creating another type of disturbance, right? Similarly, if you are so I guess I don't think organizations need to think in terms of more young people or more experienced people. Organizations need to think in terms of what is their goal and where are they going in the next 5 years, and to take them there, what is the type of profile that they need
Absolutely.
for the same job. Yeah, sorry.
No,
For
I agree with you on.
getting a 25-year-old person and a 50-year-old person, okay, then is the question I guess you are asking, that the 25-year-old person gets selected versus a 50-year-old person. That, I guess, is a reality of our times. But because the 50-year-old person will be expensive. Every organization wants to cut corners. So they'd rather give up on a little bit of more experience than give up on that advantage that they can have by bringing in a younger person, more flexible person, and a cheaper person. I think the money is a very important part of this.
People above a certain age are willing to come down. So cost is a very small subset of this whole issue. The thing is, if you look 15 years ago, when you spoke about diversity and things like that, it happened to women as well. I mean, the amount of fight we had to put to come to the table and be on par, it still is not, but it's taken a long time because there was no awareness on what are the benefits of getting it. That's my point to say that there is less awareness and people are not even aware that there is this pool that can be used effectively. I'm not saying an 80-year-old should get a job compared to a 26. I understand your logic on that. But I'm saying where there is a need or where there is a possibility of getting these people again on board, they should think about it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not principally against that. I just feel like in a country like India, where the demographics is so young, as you get older, I think it is also the responsibility of older people to think of doing other things, because there is also a lot of things to be done in this society. You know, like I met this person, and I don't want to take his name. He's a very well-known person, but he's built this beautiful museum in Mumbai. It's amazing. He's got coins. He's got beautiful. He's got a beautiful museum, and he's not sitting there and saying he's made his wealth. He's done well in his career, and now this is what he's doing. He's not sitting there and saying, "Oh, now I am 60, and can I get one more stint as a chairperson or something of another company?" It's not necessary that everybody has to keep looking for that. There is so much to be done, and I'm talking about a museum in Mumbai. But actually, if you travel down, there was this person that I knew who used to live in the south in a village, and he used to hold these film festivals where for the people in the village, where he would show these Kurosawa and Ray films. And he would get the villagers to watch them and tell them the story, and then have a conversation about that. So I don't understand why more people, because as you get older and you have made your money, I'm sure you have found something interesting in life apart from just flying to different countries and watching the sunset or the whatever falling stars or whatever people go to watch. So we are a very large country, and as young people won't be able to do that. They don't have the money, they don't have the time, they have to raise their children, they have to bring up families. So I'm not so sure that that's the only option available to people.
But the youngsters have this new option of the startup, being an entrepreneur, which was never there when we were growing up, I guess. So that is a big option. They don't have to wait for organizations to give them the money. They're making millions on their own. So So tell me, you've been reinventing yourself multiple times. We've spoken about that multiple times. So how do you keep yourself relevant in every new role that you do without losing your core identity?
Both the things, Malu. I don't know how you do this, but first of all, I don't believe that I have a core identity.
Okay.
So the fact that I worked in financial services for whatever 30 plus years, it doesn't make me a finance person. I have no right or entitlement to be treated as an expert for all my life. And really, for as long as I can understand, I have a perspective. I definitely, because I have done so many different things and I have seen this world from so many different sides. I have relationships. I have, I'm a thinking person. So I do have something to do there. But maybe at some point of time, I will stop being interested in that. So there's no need for me to think of that as my core identity and struggle to continuously be relevant. So I don't do that. I can do it for as long as I feel like it. But I think the important thing is that when you choose something different, something else, like at the point of time when I chose fintech, right? Mm-hmm. I was still, in my 40s. And that was a big passion for me because I definitely believed that technology will change the way financial services is run in this country. And I have a very strong belief that this country in particular needs financial services to change for it to become relevant to every single person. So at a very macro philosophical level, that was the reason that I felt very committed to fintech. And therefore, I made the effort to learn everything, to do whatever, to network, to know stuff. Having said that, as things have evolved, I have become more muted in my expectations from fintech. I have become more muted in my, ability to change the world. And I did try it still with my own startup, but so therefore I'm interested, I'm passionate. I will still want to do something about it when I can. But it's not that's my core identity, and every morning I have to get up and worry about how other people are thinking of me as a expert in finance or finance. I can't, because if you do that, that's a very big trap, because then you are really stressed about something which is not in your control. So what is in my control is that if I'm writing a book today, or if I'm on a board today, or if I'm mentoring somebody today, or if I'm having a conversation with you today, then what is it that I can do which is the best that I can do? And I don't think beyond that. Actually, I'm not wired like that. Yeah.
So as someone who's navigated multiple transitions, if there's one advice you can give to those standing at the edge of change but afraid to take the leap, what would it be?
Oh, just do it. I think you also told me that what advice would I give myself? Give my 30-year-old self, right?
25-year-old self, yes.
Yeah. So I'll just put these two questions together and answer it together. I will say that it's never too early for you to give up doing things that are not adding value to you. It's never too early. You could be 22 and figure out that the subject you were studying and for your master's was not going to make you, fulfilled. And it's never too early to say no. But it's never too late to actually make the change that you want to do, because today is the youngest that you are ever going to be. When you look at pictures of yourself 10 years ago, you realize that the thing that always hits you, and I'm sure it happens to everyone, is that, oh my God, at that time I thought I was old. So don't wait for that to happen to you. You know that's going to happen to you. This is the only reality in life, that 5 years or 10 years from now, you are going to be older. You're going to look back and you're going to say, I wasted another 5 years doing something that I wasn't good at or I wasn't happy with. And so it's never too late for you to do that. And it's never too early for you to, discover this and disconnect. So
it's never too late and never too early to make a change. That was very inspiring. Thank you, Shinjini, for reminding us that reinvention isn't about age, it's all about attitude. And for those listening and wondering if it's too late to start again, take a page from Shinjini's journey. Whether you're 25 or 55, there's always room to reset, rebuild, and rediscover your purpose. Thank you so much, Shinjini. Really nice talking to you.